Hello, everyone. Welcome to the introductory training class for Big Data on behalf of Stratyges Consulting. I welcome you all. My name is Dave Karlekar. Last week, we have had another session which primarily we discussed about Salesforce administration and business analysis and how easy it is to learn that particular technology. Today, we are talking about big data, which is one of the emerging platform and cloud technology. Now, many of you will have various questions, and we will try to address those questions in this 45 minutes to an hour long session. To give you a brief about Strategist Consulting, what we are trying to do, the founders at Strategist Consulting, they have been living in the USA for more than 2 decades. And in light of the current scenario where we have over 50 million people losing their job, we are trying our 2 cents towards making America great again. We have pledged to place at least 300 IT professionals between now and the year end. Towards doing that, Strategist Consulting, which is a product partner for various technologies, including that of Salesforce and many open source tools within big data also, we are providing free training to the professionals residing in the USA. It's not only a theoretical training. What makes us different than majority of these IT training firms is our training is a career job placement oriented training. After the theoretical training, many of you will get an opportunity to work on our in-house projects, which will help you to get a real-time live project experience, and that will enable you towards having a reference-ready resume. By having a reference-ready resume and having a practical project experience will add feather in your hat. We will also help you towards vendor interview preparation and also the client preparation as and when you try to seek an employment with a Fortune 500 organization. So where we are different? Well, the big difference is we are giving this free training. Okay, after been living here and being an entrepreneur for the past 2 decades, we realized that we cannot eat money as a food. And there is a phase comes in your life where you want to give it back to the community. And this kind of an anomaly and this kind of an arbitrage where the entire world is suffering, we want to give a lending hand. Whether it's India, where Mr. Modi ji is doing his level best towards generating employment and getting the economy back, and whether it is Mr. Trump in the USA trying to generate employment back, we come as a bridge in terms of providing an employment in India as well as providing an employment in the USA. As a dual heritage, we think it is our responsibility to help our Janma Bhumi, which is India, as well as to help our Karma Bhumi, which is the USA. Today, It's an introductory big data session. So in the next 45 minutes to an hour, you will get a good overview and a good presentation by my dear friend Ravindra Pandey. To give a brief introduction about Ravindra ji, well, I know him for the past 2 decades. He has over 25 plus years of experience. He has worked in the USA, Middle East, and also is living in India now. Along with an IT professional, he is one of a seasoned professional for doing corporate training as well as retail training candidates in India as well as in the USA. He has trained in different tracks of training for the beginner level to the intermediate level as well as to the lateral hires, professionals. So without doing any further ado, I welcome you all for today's introductory session. Please get a glimpse of what you will be doing as a trailer mode. After the end of the training, if some of you or all of you have any questions, please feel free to ask to Ravindra ji. He will try his level best to answer those questions, and I welcome you. Ravindra ji, we will make you the presenter and organizer, and you can start with your presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Thanks a lot, Dave. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just try to share my presentation so that we can take it up from there.
A screen share.
Yes. So start my video. Okay. Say start my video. I click on that. Let's. Okay.
Okay, you can do a screen share.
So I don't want to be a video. I want to do screen share. Start my video.
Yes, we can see you now.
Okay. You can see the presentation, right?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Screen is loading. It's loading up.
Yes. We can see the presentation. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We're going to start talking on big data. It's rather a discussion mode rather than a training mode, and I'll try to walk you through what are the topics I'm going to cover in this overall big data session, where we are basically trying to bring up a typical freshers or a developer to a level of data scientist or a big data developer or big data administrator. So there are quite a few number of tracks involved in this thing. This is a technical session, so whatever you're going to see is built of a more of technology and less of a overall platform or less of a product, frankly speaking. So big data overall is a complete platform by itself. I'll just skip you through the next slide. This is basically my introductory slide. I worked on 16 different countries. I'm doing corporate training for last 16 years, blah, 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 blah. I'll just move on. Why big data? Let me pitch in basically. This is actually coming from the market research group. They published this thing in the end of 2019, and this is where it stands right now. So currently we are looking at around 140 US billion in terms of revenue as far as just the big data product stack goes. And by 2025, we are trying to double it, or we are expecting it to get doubled, and so on and so forth. So you can really understand the importance of this platform. How it's so overall, it's a really demanding need as far as big data as a market of a developer, administrator, or data scientist or analyst go for that matters. So this is just a glimpse of where we are, what we are targeting to overall. And this is a global market technology, what you can say, exploited graph, which shows big data at around 140.3 US billion again in 2016. This is a kind of conservative to the last graph which we have seen. I'll just move on. Now, big data. We have basically developed this session into 6 different weeks. See, we are basically trying to migrate a fresher or a fresh graduate to a level of a data scientist, to a level of analyst, to a level of a complete data administrator or a big data administrator to be precise. And for that, we have a complete planned migration process here. So it goes from a typical understanding big data to actual live project, to the handholding of the employees, the interview facilitation, question bank preparations. We are trying to understand the Fortune 500 big companies big data footprint, how they are migrating, what are the tools they are using, what are the tool sets we are incorporating in this training, and so on and so forth. So we are just trying to walk you through the whole gamut of big data platform today. To start with, let's try to understand why big data, why we should move to big data, right? Again, just to give you a heads up, what I would really love to do is basically complete a topic and then take a questions from you. And I would really glad if you could hold in till that moment. Will be big great help, because whenever in a flow of teaching, you tend to go in that flow, and if anybody really disturbs you, you might lose a couple of points there. So I would really appreciate if you could stop when I request you to ask your question. That'll be really great help to understand and go with the flow kind of scenario. Thanks a lot for your patience. I'll be starting over with the overall why big data. See, we were using database since the computer starts, right? We started with text database, tab separated, XML, this, that. Then it comes a structured database. Then we move to many other flavors of database like DBMS, RDBMS, and so on and so forth. But till let's say 2010, we never had actually what you can say expansion of databases, frankly speaking, because databases were always a kind of a referencing blocks or a kind of backbone of the whole applications or a product for that matters. Now the actual migration of this database came after 2010 when Google started working on something called big data. So as the name suggests, big data is basically bigger than the database capacity, which we were designed pre-2000 eras. So big data started shaping up in those areas, and we got a new system altogether or new platform altogether to migrate our small database to a big data. Now, why is the need, frankly speaking? The questions comes to mind, right? So, see, if you look at the current scenario of a typical computer system, it normally spans the whole gamut of technology. It normally spans whole gamut of globe together. Means previously, if you look at something like let's say Foxglove or similar those kind of databases in good old days, we used to have just single database, and it used to work very fine. Then we had a kind of second generation or third generation, what is like Oracle. We have Microsoft SQL, and those kind of various second level of databases where we started migrating our data to these new databases. So we are basically trying to get clubbed many database and to use at a single product or single systems as a whole. And that's how the migrations take place. But nowadays, if you look at the typical data generations, we have moved to a gamut of GB data per day rather than KB data per day kind of scenarios. Like previously, if you take a simple example of, let's say, our mobile phone, right? And if you take a simple example of, let's say, WhatsApp for that matter. So the WhatsApp data per day goes to almost 1.5 GB per user on a average scale. If you look at really good media guy, his database capacity or size can be easily between 10 gig to 12 gig a day. And if these basically start applying globally, the overall requirement of data throughput is too much extensive as of today. So for that, we have to we need to really migrate our database to a level where we can pull these database into our database with a relational model or with a model which concurrently work with our product or services or applications which we have developed previously. So that's how the big data chipped in. So we are trying to migrate a complete older database to a new database or new database of extensive volume, velocity, and variety type of scenarios here. Volume is basically we're talking about like a gigabyte or multiple gigabytes of data per user. The velocity, because as the database is too huge in size, we require the efficient pushing in and pulling in of these databases. And the variety, because we have different types of database here. So we normally go from a typical structured data to unstructured data to a picture based data where we don't have a metadata on that, and we need to really create the metadata from the tools itself and those kind of scenarios. Then we have extensive pricing, because you can't have revenue creeping up for something like databases on daily basis. So we have to have certain revenue restrictions, revenue efficiently manage efficiently what you can say cost efficient database for that matters. And this is how the big data supports overall. And then as far as the performance, yes, we need the performance, because nowadays everything must happen in a nanoseconds with the validity scale as well. So we need quality as well as performance, and that's what the big data supports. Seek need of the database. So if you don't have a qualified result given to your application or product, the database doesn't make any resemblance to whatever the need is, frankly speaking. So for that we need to have a really good efficient database which can give us the actual qualitative returns to the product or to the services or to the applications for that matters. And then we have the requirement of centralized as well as distributed database, because if the database sizes go haywire, we need to have a distributed database in place, and that's what the big data also supports. Then we're going to talk on database lifecycle. We're going to understand structured data, regional data, and the other type of data which we normally generate on daily basis, how we cope up those things in big data. That's what we're going to see overall in this introductory session. Till that, anybody have any questions for me till this day? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hi, this is Ruchi.
Hi, Ruchi. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to know for big data, do we need programming background?
Do you need?
Programming background? Coding?
Yes, basically, it's a technology platform altogether. So you need to have a programming background so that we can really understand what's the technologies, how we can basically understand those things. But there are some stream overall where we can really understand how you can let's say for that matters, there are certain tools which don't require programming on a larger scale. So for that matters, you can have some role like analytics or those kind of roles can be done without programming. But overall, big data is a technology platform. So technology know-how is required overall. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
Thanks, Rob. No problem.
So Ravindra, Bini this side.
Hi, Vinny,
So I
tell
have
me,
one question for you.
please.
So basically, in the COVID situation, I lost my job. So I'm a .NET developer. So can I switch my technology from .NET developer to big data? So what difficulties will I face from a .NET developer to a big data developer?
Yeah. It's really great questions. Thanks for bringing that up for me. It's a typical development platform, and as you say, big data is basically deals with database. So rather than a technology platform, it's a complete database platform by itself. So if you work with any other database like my MS SQL or Oracle database, we can easily migrate to the big data. It's a kind of database, and it has certain inherent feature of programming or technology configuration and so on and so forth. So for you, migration will be like you are moving from a developer to a database guy. It can be administrator, it can be a data scientist, and it can be a good database administrator for that matters. But this will be really rewarding for you in a long term, because this is really coming up big way. And if you can really understand, there are quite a few other platforms which are supported by big data overall, be it something like IOTA, be it something like media, robotics, embedded. This platform also helps you in a long way if you move to big data. And of course, your development background will help you definitely to climb the ladder very fast and efficiently. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I would love to join your training, and thank you Strategies Consulting for giving us this beautiful opportunity to join you all. Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Hi,
Thanks a lot.
hi, Ravindra. I have a question for you. Is
Please
big
go ahead.
data going to be the future of the database and analytics?
Yes, definitely. Because if you look at the size, normally what we are typically looking for a given product or platform, big data is the only platform which support these things. And big data is not a product, frankly speaking. It basically has overall 32 or different products or tools to support the whole platform. I'll talk about in detail, and I think you'll get the complete answer, during this training. So, but overall, to sum up the answer, this is kind of growing. Database needs fulfilling technology. So, for that matters, it's a need of the hour rather than anything else. If you look at the typical example of, let's say, Amazon.com. If you try to support Amazon.com with MS SQL or Oracle database, imagine how difficult it will be. Even if you have too many, instances of database or too many clustered database, still you couldn't, suffice the need for the, front end. Millions of users working at a time, millions of gigabyte of information is going to be fed to the, users on a nanosecond basis, which these databases are not equipped for. So that's why everybody is moving to big data. Amazon use a Hadoop, big data, frankly speaking, just to give you the heads up on that stuff. So big data is going to be a market standard, and which is a kind of need of the hour, to be precise. And I believe you'll get answer throughout this, introductory session. And then I think at the end you can ask this question again if you are still not satisfied.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much, Ravindra sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Ravindra, I have a
Any
question.
other questions?
Ravindra, I have a question.
Please,
This is
go ahead.
Deepak. So,
Hi,
how
Deepak,
this
please go ahead.
course, how this course will be beneficial to get job in the market?
It's really a good question. See, as far as the design of the course is concerned, the course is designed for 6 weeks, and it basically takes a typical fresher or developer or a technical person to a level of a data scientist or a database administrator or database developer, for that matter. That's how the course is designed. If you look at typical module of the course, which is available on our website, which starts with basically a history of database, then it moves to the overall recovery, backups, other procedure, the components of big data. Then we talk on Hadoop, HDFS, MapReduce, Peak, Hive, and all the other tool sets, around 30 odd tool set available throughout the training, which helps you to move to a typical developer level, to a data scientist or data designer or data administrator type of level. So you can be any of those things if you really go through this course. And we also help you to basically take care of the interviews as well. We do handholding. We have a questions bank with us, which can help you to go through before your interview, so that you will be completely ready to face the interview. We also have a live project at the end of these things. So these live projects will help you to actually work on a business problem and understand what are the different set of tools we are using to create a big data solution. So this enables you to actually stand to do your job on a daily basis. And above all, we also have a on-job support. So whenever you join somebody, we have a senior person to help you, to support you throughout your career, so that whenever you have any problem, you can come back to us on our WhatsApp, email, and all those type of communication methodologies. So we'll be there to help you, and that's how we are designing this overall training sessions, or different training modules for you. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, Ravindra, and it really sounds interesting.
Okay,
Thanks a
guys, let Ravindra. Ravindra is still at week 1. Let him finish week 6, and then some of these questions you may ask at the end of the session, because some of these questions will get answered during his training itself. Thank you.
Thanks a
Okay.
lot for that. I don't know. I have sharing paused. I don't know how the sharing is paused.
We can see your screen, so go ahead.
Yeah, you can see that. Oh, yeah, I'll go. So this is a basically typical life cycle of a data. So you normally deploy a data, you evolve a data, you do modeling, you do data preparation, and then you have a complete business, application sitting on this data, retrieval and those things. So this is a typical sample, data life cycle what we talked about, right? So I think everybody knows these things. Now let's try to start deep diving the big data as solutions overall. So what we will start overall in this training is basically we'll take a business problem definitions. We will really have a research papers or a kind of overall solution understanding with the given technology tool sets, and we'll try to map them together. Then we'll go to architecting a big data solutions to start with. So we'll have HDFC, we'll have data acquisition standards, we have data that's data buffering best practices, data storage, and overall data block architecture definitions for efficient data throughputs. Then we have exploratory data analysis, which really enable us to have a valid data for a business as and when required, and build the microservices or any other type of services which are required to push in and push it out of database. Then we have a data preparation and modeling assessment. So if you have a two different set of applications, we can have a separate model running on a simple big data database, and how we can assess those things as per the need, or how we can tweak them or remodel it as per the needs, and the actual rollout of the whole system, rollout of the whole big data solutions. That's what we're going to teach in this whole 6 weeks, to be precise. Okay, so I'll move further then. Okay, now let's try to understand a typical big data life cycle. So we have different gamut of technology supporting here overall nowadays. We'll have something like even machine learning. We have quite a few libraries or algorithms, regression or segmentation models already developed as far as big data life cycle goes. I believe you will understand this thing as and when we move to a deeper dive to a given technologies, because we have a machine learning through Java. Libraries implemented for pre-cooked data, for pre-pulled data, like the Amazon is using. Then we have recommender system like Netflix and YouTube. Yes, these two guys use big data as their backend. So if if I believe you use Netflix or Amazon Prime or such kind of streaming services, these guys use big data because these are metadata driven movie files or image files for that matters. So those kind of solutions also we're going to review. We're going to understand their architecture, how they build, what type of algorithms, what type of models, database models they use. Then how to develop a business data business dashboards, which gives you the exact volume efficiency ratios, volume movement ratios, or the storage versus cost type of ratios to a given administrator. So we're going to have a look at the database as in healthy solutions from a business point of view as well. And then we have, of course, we have ad hoc analysis for all type of criticality, all type of escalations management, on all type of backup and recovery matrices, which addressed through big data as a platform, so that if there are any problem, you'll be proactively notified. Like for example, if this db volume allocated, which is really thresholding to the given volumes and so on. So these kind of ad hoc analysis or proactive triggers we can build in big data, which helps business in a long term. And we're going to learn this thing in detail. Then we have actually, yes, this is really good thing, Frank. Big data as in data science, right? Because every database has a given what you can say, modeling schema into it, which really make it a good study point or good analysis based systems, which helps each and every scientist to build on it, to build efficiencies, to build or to keep continuously improving it as per the changing business needs. And that's why we require data scientists in big data as well. And we also do a really good big deep dive whenever we are going through data requirement or data modeling or data schema architecting in big data. And that's part and parcel of the whole this course material. And we also have a statistical query retrieval packages to R, Python, SAS or SPSS as well. And there are quite a few other tool sets also supports this statistical packages retrievals, which we'll learn through it. And we'll also have a good research design, the implementation, different models for that matters. And we have a deep mathematical, statistical, and or computer science knowledge to club all together for giving a good solutions. And we'll have a look at each and every of these corners, each and every of these aspects will be studied in detail throughout this course. I'll move to the next point. That's for the week 1. Now week 2, we are basically trying to explore each and every tool, each and every platform, each and every third-party open system tools available for a big data as a platform. There's a talent. We will have everything from installation to architecting to the given open studio which are available there. Then how to build a business model. Try to understand the open studio, its configuration, the development best practices, the overall even commenting model, the efficiency inbuilt in the studio. We'll have those things studied in detail. Then we also have a complete Java as a basic platform for this course material. So if you know Java, well and good. If you don't know, we'll also help you to handle how to do Java programming. Those things will also be covered. And then we'll have all the other job designing, metadata design, the different type of variables which big data supports. This will come in week 2. And also week 2 we are going to start on Hadoop, how to build Hadoop, how to build Hadoop solutions, its environment, what is HDFS, how we can support the HDFS operations overall. When we use MapReduce, is it really needed? If not, if yes, how to implement those things? What are the pros and cons of MapReduce? How we do streaming? Streaming is basically, as you know, Netflix and YouTube. All these guys, they work on streaming. So Hadoop is basically the basic file system they use for this streaming. So how to build those streaming? How to use them? How to index them? How to build FS data? How to build data node, names node, and so on and so forth. So these kind of all architectural needs will deep dive in these things. Now, just to I've just added to understand a typical fresher developer to move a typical freshers developer from SQL to Hadoop. What are the differences? How SQL works? How Hadoop works? SQL is a serial query, sequential query. Hadoop is basically we are trying to have a parallel works here. We have a parallel nodes who are basically getting accessed on a single instance. So that's how the whole thing differs, frankly speaking. And that's how this is a parallel processing, serial processing, and the speeds basically improvise in multifolds of lakhs of transactions per nanosecond and those scenarios. So that's how the whole Hadoop advantage to a given SQL. But there are quite a few guys who are still working on SQL, so they has to be migrated to Hadoop. Their knowledge has to be migrated to Hadoop. So we basically have a special chapters in this training session which will migrate you from a typical SQL developer to a Hadoop developer. That's what's also included in this session. And then actual operational big data. So we'll build 3 odd live system at the end of week 6, but we'll start building simple, smaller systems with something like MongoDB, something like with NoSQL, and those kind of platforms available throughout this training material. So there'll be no surprises as such. We'll increase your knowledge gradually and practically throughout this session. And that's how we're going to migrate. There are lots of practical lessons, practical programming assignments for you, and slowly, steadily, you will be migrated to a complete big data solution designing, architecting, and administrating for that matter, so that you can choose your track effectively, whatever you interest in. And that's how we're going to help you to choose your right track and where your interest lies and how can you benefit it best from our course material. That's the most important thing which is included in this courseware. I'll move on to the next slide. Now analytics, as you know, today analytics is the most important factor of the overall data industry. So the data without analysis doesn't help, or nobody wants, frankly speaking. So you normally try to develop something like microservices with my MapReduce, or any technology for that matters. And as we are talking about huge databases, we require a massively parallel processing as well, which big data supports, and that's why we are going to learn the massive parallel processing. We call it MPP with MapReduce. We're going to do a couple of projects on MapReduce to understand how the actual MapReduce works. This is of course a cloud-based technology. So we'll have a distributed database. That is, the database is situated on many computers throughout the globe, and we're trying to build our retrieval systems, which is a massively parallel processing queries to get the data, to retrieve the data from all these different cloud systems to our required solutions or applications for that matters, and we'll do it live with you. And then there are some operational and analytical systems as well. I'm trying to just put a comparison. These two also require, frankly speaking, means it's a part of solution. It can be operational or analytical, but nowadays we normally lie in between. Like our systems must be operational sometimes, must be analytical sometimes. So for that matters, we try to have a what you can say, combined solutions or hybrid solutions. That's what normally the data scientists call it. So how to build a hybrid solution, that's what we talked about. The comparison doesn't matter because analytical solution is basically a read-only solutions. Operational is basically try to dump in new data as well for that matters. So there are some pros and cons, but how to get these two systems working together with a given product or with a given application, that's also we'll see overall in our practical these things. Then how basically algorithms implemented in MapReduce. These algorithms basically have a pre-cooked data pulled to user systems, what we normally call user history pools, or those things. To give a sample, basically, if me as in Ravindra, I logged into my Amazon account, Amazon knows what are the last products I have purchased, or what are the last products I have added to the wish list, or what are the last products I have seen, so that the computer understand whenever I log into my Amazon account, he knows these three items he might purchase if he has money today, or if he wants to purchase anything today. So let's give some additional discount to occupy that customer, or to convert that customer into a client, or into a what you can say, performed customer or paid customer kind of scenario. So that's how it's done. We'll study those type of exercises as well. How to build such algorithms, what are the nodes, what are the decision points, and so on and so forth. That's how we're going to work on MapReduce also. And there are different components within MapReduce which we'll study in detail within this course material in week 3. And then we have Hadoop. Hadoop is also one of the most popular technology in big data. So we'll have a complete deep dive in Hadoop, how to work on different technologies, different platforms, and different elements of technology in these things. MapReduce, we've seen it's a so it's like basically whenever you move to a database where the database is still going out of hand, and you try to have certain things which are what I can say, constantly expanding database. For example, something like YouTube means if you really if you understand the overall YouTube working of the data push-pull methodologies there, we have a good amount of database, incremental database on an hourly basis, and that's normally in a terabyte. If you actually calculate their data increments in a year, they go to petabytes normally, and that's a normal scenario. And if something like Corona happens, the data dump increase on the YouTube have increased multi-fold. So we are now talking about hundreds of petabyte per day data increment, and that's is supported by MapReduce. So we try to understand their solution as well, how they have done, what type of algorithms they have used, what type of what type of user management systems they are using through read write or pushing the data overall in MapReduce. That's what we also have a look at those things. Then we have a complete HDFS architecture, how the data nodes are built, how the name nodes are created, how the black ops or write replications, read only, and those kind of architecture design for a given big data solutions. We'll do it on live projects as well for that matters. Then we'll move on to Pig. Pig is also kind of over the MapReduce. It's kind of enhanced or rather a new developed tool which really enhance the applications instead of MapReduce for that matter. So we also have a deep dive in Apache Pig where it needs where we MapReduce can't be more efficient, so we can move the solution to Apache Pig. How to migrate from MapReduce to Pig and their correlations. That's also we'll have a look at in deep dive. And then of course this has a kind of need if you're a data scientist, you need to really understand where to support Pig and where to support MapReduce, how they can work in correlations as well for that matters. This is also included in the overall training material, and we'll have a complete solution inbuilt on a Pig, and we also have a solution inbuilt on MapReduce, so that you could clearly understand what are the different points of advantages and disadvantages of each of these things. And yes, Pig versus SQL, we have seen that thing. Then Hive, of course. See, these are different tools which we normally talk about. So unless and until you know the basic architecture of big data, just throwing name of these tool sets, it's like it's easier to understand if you really work together or start working on big data, so that we can help you much more in depth with something like, let's say, Apache Hive or Pig, Ooze, Spark. These are the all intricate tools which are available for the overall big data platform. So I really don't want to impress you with technology names at this point, but I would really like to understand or impress you specifically of the vast technology toolsets which we are going to learn as far as big data training goes. And we understand the solution, we understand the architecture part of it, and we are going to help you to move to a next level in your career, from a typical developer or typical database support guy to a database analysis, database scientist, or database overall architect for that matters, so that you can really progress in your career. And we are there to support you on a large scale with our whole team to handle you to basically start building understanding the business solutions, giving us solutions, build a perfect solutions or architect a perfect solution in big data, give it to the client, and work throughout the solutions to support them as well. That's how we are developing this big data tool sets for you, for each and every such candidate, such resource, so that we can move to a latest jobs stack, job skill set, so that it will help you in your career growth quickly and efficiently for that matters. That's how we are defining this course. And of course this course will be get amended as and when the new tool sets available. So as and when the new tool sets really takes the frontier, and we will really love to integrate those things in our training as well. So we are quite open to add new tool sets in this as well, and we are ready to do those as well. So even something like let's just Spark support multiple languages. Then you have advanced analytics for MapReduce and so on and so forth. So this is a kind of latest tool set like Uji. This is basically a scheduler. If you know batch jobs, Uji is basically a good scheduler for high, big, and scope as well. And this is a typical architecture vision. Like we have all data sources, how to categorize them, how to build analytics on them, how to do the exploitation, integrated warehouse, smart zones, and different type of pre-cooked data sources, data masters within the big data. And then we can have an intelligent analysis, decision making system, the business and intelligence, analytical applications, and so on and so forth. So this is the whole gamut of big data which we're going to address through this training, and we going to take you to a technical developer, to a data scientist role, or a data administrator, or a data architect role. That's how the whole course material is designed for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm there to answer your questions. Hello. Anybody to answer questions?
Hi, Ravindra.
Hi.
I'm Sudeshna. Thanks for the session. It was so informative. I
Thanks,
would
Sudeshna.
like to know, I'm from a management background. I would like to know how it helps me to be a functional consultant. What kind of
Great.
opportunities do I have, and what kind of industries can I target for the opportunities?
Definitely. As a management consultant, see, if you really work on a IT or a given IT solutions, it's really good to understand big data as a solution, because now everybody is moving to big data. And as far as the overall data needs goes, the volumes and the velocity and the variety of the data, which basically make it more business aligned to move to big data. And to understand those aspects of technology solution movement, learning big data will help you in long term as well. And you could be really big data administrator or big data architect for that matter. So you can start giving solution in big data, right? And as in management, to understand the IT budgeting part of it. So what type of solutions are really fit to your need? That's how you can learn the big data and the gamut of technology. And it's more of a business supporting than a technical development as well. So if you don't want to go to development but have something like architecture or data scientific track, that's also will help you in your career. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Ravindra. Thanks so much. And can you tell me what kind of industries can I target? I mean, financial services or media?
These are basically yeah, right. As I told you, like big data is basically targeted for bigger data driven type of applications. So bigger data driven applications means something like, let's say, airlines, media industry, or technological driven industries, or bigger stores like Amazon, Snapdeal, and all those type of scenarios, or even for that matters, these streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, even Alexa uses big data internally to support all its metadata and sound file needs, those kind of scenarios as well. So industry wide, wherever you need to have analyze or use big databases which are not supported by normal databases, you have to have knowledge of big data. And all these industry, healthcare is a big consumer of big data, frankly speaking, because they are now only moving to automated based surgeries and those things. That's where big data is really used extensively. So there are I don't think there's any industry which basically out of big data scope, be it a small e-commerce player, or be it a large e-commerce or commerce player like YouTube or Amazon, and those kind of scenarios as well. So everybody is included in the whole thing.
Thanks so much. And your course looks very vast. Thanks for the session. I'm looking forward for the complete course. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Ravindra,
any other? Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, Ravindra, Nitin here. I have one question.
Go ahead.
It's like big data have some product partnership with Apache technology stack, so it's include Kafka as well.
Yes, see, okay, as I told you, there are quite a few technologies which are used, and there are technology which basically gone absolute as well, like Scala. Scala was hotcake in within last couple of years, but it's slowly, steadily phased out. And now there are quite a few other technologies which are taking place of those things. So there are what I will say, rather than learning technology's name, let's try to understand the basic motto behind using that technology, so that you can utilize your solution or build your solution more efficiently. That's how I see. So I have also mentioned quite a few technologies in today's session, but I'll not stick to it. So what I would really love to do, you tell me what type of solution you want, and I'll tell you the technology which is best suited. If not, let's debate on that. Let's have a clear understanding of tool. So if any new tools comes, let's have an R&D. Let's spend some time, spend some hours, so that we can clearly understand how it's suited to our need, or is there any better technology available, so that we can do solution efficiently and quickly. So those kind of scenario also plays a part. So rather than sticking to a particular technology, I would really love to have a complete platform or a gamut of alternatives available. And once I know which puzzle fits where, then it's really easy. It's really good to be a good data scientist or good solution giver, right?
Yes, correct.
That's how that's where I want to take you. That's how we're going to teach in this whole courseware.
Yeah, correct.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Ravi.
Any other questions? Feel free, please. Anybody have any other questions?
I'm impressed. Like if you cover everything in first day, like how are you going to cover rest of the courses? Like,
That's really difficult question, sir. No, everything is not covered. Means if you really look at just the history of big data, it's so vast. Means the migration of technology itself. Means let's talk about simple tool like HDFS, the file system which big data use. Predominantly HDFS is used, and it's evolved for the last 13 odd years. The way it's evolved, the way it's migrated, the way the nodes are designed, nodes are created, nodes are modified, even learning that thing takes a couple of weeks altogether. So the real, I believe the art here is to condense whole thing in 6 weeks. This can be normally a year-round training session as well, for that matter. So that's why I've answered that technology name and the skill set learning. What I would really love to understand, what are the technology tool set available to me for a given solution, and then learn that rather than having A, B, C, D to learn. We have designed, and these are mostly basically business tool sets available, and that's how that course material is designed for the 6 weeks. So it's really a I'll say kind of art, or a kind of management gimmick or strategy gimmick to build the complete solutions, or address all the technologies available for a given big data stacks altogether. I'm going to need all your guidances for this as well. Please go ahead.
Yes, this is Dave. So if nobody has any questions, we will try to wrap it up. Again, why big data? It's a hot potato. It's a very emerging and a high demand technology toolkit. It's a mixed bag of various open source tools. I think largely speaking about 35 tools. Some of those tools you got a glimpse in today's session from Ravindra. Having said that, it's a very exhaustive marketplace. And I repeat again, the difference between the dime a dozen training companies vis-a-vis to Stratyges consulting training methodology is majority of these training companies, they're there, just make some quick bucks, do some lip service, and then they're gone. To begin with, it's a free training. We really walk the talk. In a sense, we want to make a difference in people's life, and we want to make sure each one of you, those who are interested in seeking career in big data, we want to give you that helping hand. Now, considering a very exhaustive platform, yes, it can be a little demanding to learn all these things, and we understand that. So you need to have a little bigger fire in your belly to absorb and to digest. Right? It's like I commonly said, you go to a buffet, skip your morning breakfast so that you can have a nice buffet meal, because that's important. The same way, depending upon how much appetite you have to learn, big data offers you that wide platform. and why you will be successful. One of the big USP or a key USP, that is a unique selling proposition of seeking this training from Stratyges Consulting, is because our company, we are product partners for various these open source tools that enables us to do various prototypes, various small projects, various statement of works which we do. As our art of giving being here for the last 2-3 decades, we have taken a lot of projects with this local entrepreneur community, and each one of you will get an opportunity to work on these real-time projects. And these real-time projects will thus infuse confidence within yourself. So it's not only the theory, it is the practical knowledge. And with that practical knowledge, you will be able to work on your resume, which will have all the bells and the whistles, or most of the bells and the whistles, which are required for you to get a job. And after working on some of our projects, many of you will get an opportunity to work on that. With that practical experience, that's going to enable you to have your resume, which is reference ready, which is project ready, because you have a live experience. And also, we will infuse that confidence in you, as in how to interact with the vendor agency, what kind of questions they ask, how you can relate that answers from your practical training or from your project experience. And also, this will go a long way towards helping you prepare for your client interview. Because whilst going through this coursework and while working, you will encounter various questions, various queries, and you will also have a resolution. And as an SCI CMM level 3 company, we ensure that everything is properly documented, everything is properly archived. You will have access to those questions and answers data bank, real-time scenarios, use cases. We will also help you to those mock sessions so that before going for an interview, based upon what the job description is, we will ensure that we have a formal session and you are best prepared for the interview. With so much of an employment destruction happening, it is our humble effort to get some of you or all of you back to the employment. As I said, as a company, we have pledged to at least get 300 people back in the employment market. If that means that I have to train 500, 600, 800 people for doing training, so be it. It's our art of giving. It's our way to help the community. And by using this web conference call, this remote training, one good thing which COVID-19 taught us is you can be anywhere across the nation or across the globe. Using the technology, we all can come at one marketplace and can learn, can brainstorm, can synergize. So if any one of you do not have any other questions, I'll wait for another 30 seconds. Otherwise, we'll just wrap up the session. Anyone has any final few questions for Ravindra or on this big data training? I'll take it as no. No? Okay. So we are recording this session. Yeah, we are recording this session. And because I see there were about 36 people are RSVP'd, but 28 joined, and barring 3 of us, it will be 25. So maybe those 10, 11 people who missed it, we will give them a recorded session, maybe a recorded session to each one of you too, so that in your free time, in case you missed on something or in case you wanted to have a revision, you could do so. So give us one day. We will record this session. We will, make sure we give you the final copy of it, and then it will be for you. The email address is training@stratyges.com. Most of you know that. because that's how you approached us. It's very overwhelming response. We have more than 400 people who were willing to know more about our training. And many of you, every training which we have taken, we had a Salesforce batch last week. I think we had 34, 35 people. Today we have 28 people. So it's good to see a large pool of people coming in. Every batch we are seeing between 25 to 35 people joining in. And I sincerely appreciate all of you giving your time and attending this training. I thank you all. Thank you, Ravindraji, for giving your time, for giving a very good technological overview, touching in all major popular tools. And I assure you, those who want to take big data, it's a very thriving career. It's an emerging platform. It's a high demand platform, and it pays one of the highest top dollars in the IT industry. So I thank you all, and I look forward seeing some of you, most of you, in our training, which will be starting in the first week of August. There'll be some formalities in terms of paperwork and getting your ID, because we want to make sure we're giving this training for the people who are in the USA. So our HR will contact you, and they will follow up with you once you comply with those requirement necessities. Some of you, many of you, all of you will be enrolled for the training, which is starting in August, first week of 2020. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dave, one more thing is that, considering that we put this notice only at last 6 hours or 8 hours, it has been an overwhelming response.
Very good.
Yeah, it's really good response. I also appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Very
for
good.
attending.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank